reality.
Yo, welcome to another episode of Power Hour. My name is Kid Takeoff, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring on my bro, Jay. What's up, bro?
Flame on, man. What's up?
What's up? So, we all love Civil War. In my opinion, it was kind of messed up, but kind of unnecessary. I would say, like the Avengers were literally like they literally split in half, and we were like, "Oh, we're gonna fight y'all," all because Bucky. I don't know why Captain's so obsessed with this man.
To be fair, is his best friend. He failed. It's essentially the Robin effect. How Batman failed Jason Todd. It was his ward, his ally. He ultimately failed him. But here's the difference. In Death in the Family, Batman had to prioritize the political aspect, the terrorists, Joker, all that. He just couldn't
Right.
circle back and salvage the situation fast enough. Bucky and Cap, they were actively in war, and if you're going off the MCU version, Bucky fell off the train and was presumed dead because he fell from such a great height. Hydra was able to salvage him, turn him into a cyborg, and we know the rest.
Right.
So the
So,
reasoning is, go ahead.
go ahead. I'll let you finish.
So the reasoning is there, or at least for him to feel some type of guilt, like okay, Bucky was clearly brainwashed. He's been forced to do a lot of horrible things, and this is just part of a larger scheme. Tony, much like the original comic, is swayed by survivor's guilt. And I feel like, especially in the movie version, this got blown way out of proportion. They just had to ally with the government and essentially be government agents. It did not need to escalate this far.
And Shield was falling apart at that point.
Pretty much.
Shit is gone. Shit is dead.
I
Sorry.
I, I will agree. So, what I got for our what if is I'm gonna bring up random characters that I feel like the MCU had a opportunity during Civil War to introduce. Instead of waiting till this multiverse saga of Phase 6. Like these are just a little bit of what I feel like would have been a perfect timing.
I get what you mean, but a lot of these characters were either part of Fox because the acquisition didn't occur at the time, or they just couldn't afford the license, so they just settled for the characters they had. I just want to go ahead and state that right now.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to our first character, Moon Knight. Now, how I want to break each of these characters down is I want each of y'all to say if it was good or a bad timing for them to introduce and whose side of the Civil War battlefield you think they'll be on, and how
I
it
would,
would have
Okay.
ended, and how it would
I'll
have
go
ended.
first.
All right.
I'd say Moon Knight would settle for Captain America. It depends which personality, but I feel like they all have a stronger sense of justice to where you shouldn't sell out to the government, even if it is just a PR stunt. You could help a lot more people as a humanitarian or private sector organization than just being a government stooge. So I think although it would take some convincing with the other personalities in Moon Knight, they would ultimately side with Cap.
Yeah, I kind of
Mhm.
would agree that he was side with Cap, and how I think it would have happened. I feel like Moon Knight would have definitely went after Tony, and I guess he probably would have like destroyed Tony. I don't know. I feel like it'll be a mutual fight. I
If it
really
was
do.
purely, it's like Batman versus Iron Man, and I'm not saying that because of the fact that Moon Knight is Marvel's Batman. What's up, Najee?
What's up,
But
Najee?
in a one, if we're not counting intellect and tech, Moon Knight could best Tony 1v1. But if Tony's already in his armor, which he is most of the time, and he has prep time with Moon Knight's abilities, he could hold his own. The
And
wild
then you got to
card,
think he has Rhodey too. It's not just Tony.
yeah, they tag team him. They could secure a dub if they tag team him. But I think Moon Knight is so unpredictable and so adaptable with his multiple personalities in the Moon Knight
Yeah.
persona Moon Knight would put up a good fight, but I don't think he'd be able to take on both of them at the same time.
Especially he wouldn't go 1v1 with Vision.
No, Vision can just turn himself intangible every time Moon Knight goes for a punch. So I know he couldn't beat Moon Knight.
And can't Vision like get inside minds?
Not what you think, but it depends on which version of Vision we're talking about.
Yeah, because remember, there's 3 personalities. There's Mark Spector, there's Stephen Grant, and then there's the 3rd personality, Taxi personality. Personality.
It's like his where he calls his brother.
Pretty much.
Remember in the TV series, it looked like him, but it was a different name than Steven.
Yeah, Stephen Grant, Mark Spector, who's the original personality. Okay, he's the original personality, and then there's his third personality. Remember, Moon Knight had multiple personalities.
All right, so Tavia, whose side would you say you think Moon Knight would actually ally with?
Captain America. Let's be real. Moon Knight would not give a damn about Iron Man because 1, Moon Knight is a mercenary. 2, Mark Spector and the mercenary. He's not giving a damn about Cap.
So do you think? So would you say that
he would be full Captain America for 20%?
Would you say that? Would you say Moon Knight would go toe to toe with Black Panther?
I think he would go toe to Black Panther. Would he win? I don't know.
I don't know.
Here's the thing. In the Avengers 1, the came with Jason Aaron's 1, we did see Moon Knight and Black Panther fight each other. Even though that one it got stupid, it
but
was
I feel,
still in his sport.
And then you also got Ant-Man. I feel like he would definitely beat Ant-Man. Like that's no doubt.
Yeah, he would.
Let's keep this Spidey.
So I feel like Moon Knight would definitely change how Civil War would have ended. I feel like Captain's side may have more of an advantage.
Yeah, but they still ultimately go on the run. The Avengers are split. I don't think Moon Knight alone will be enough for a reconciliation. Just playing ball because if you play ball, if you follow the terms of the Sokovia Accords, you're pretty much just becoming essentially being Superman in Elseworld stories, where he's just a government stooge. But I just feel like
Superman had to take care of his family.
The Dark Knight Returns.
That. Yeah, that doesn't count. That's an Elseworld story.
Oh, come on. The guy's a Boy Scout. I wouldn't call him a government stooge, but he's definitely...
Yeah, Superman not a government stooge. Captain America not a government stooge either.
Right.
No, they're just... Go ahead.
Y'all can finish.
Oh. But what I was trying to say was that's not enough just fully sway. Captain America's side would put up more of a fight, but I feel like they would still go on the run in the end. There would definitely be more casualties on Tony's side.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Rhodey gets handicapped. Vision undergoes heavy damage. Hawkeye gets beaten into an inch of his freaking life.
I feel like Black Widow would just get tumbled.
Black Widow would
be Black Widow's spy. She betrayed Iron Man, remember, in Civil War?
No, I feel like she was against Cap. She was against Captain.
No, she was at first. Remember, but when they found out Benzema plane, she betrayed
when they were at the plane. Yeah, she let Captain and them go.
Yeah,
because she had to escape.
Because at this point, it wasn't really about the Sokovia Accords. It was just a battle of egos between Tony and Steve. Because as you piece the mission together, Winter Soldier was essentially a political assassin.
And then Tony's parents was killed, and then he found out about it.
Yeah, Tony just wanted Bedlam, and Tony just wanted revenge.
No, you can't lie. When he actually fought Cap and Bucky one-on-one in the I forget, what's that organization called?
Hammer?
No, Hydra. And where they were at the Hydra base, and then they showed the clip of Bucky killing Tony's parents, and then Tony.
Yeah, showed that. He showed the footage.
He looked at Steve and said, "Did you know?" Okay. And then he was like, "Tony, it wasn't him." And then he looked at Steve, looked like, "Did you know?" And he said, "Yes, I did." He said, "Tony, but it wasn't him." And as soon as that mask came down, he said, "Bucky, run!" He knew Tony was about to go ham.
And I even said, like, I don't care. He killed my mom.
Lie. He really put the pause on Bucky and Steve. I ain't gonna but I don't
Yep.
know how Steve
Tony
handled
held his
family.
own. Tony held his own. I'll give you that. Tony held his
He
own. But
blew out Bucky's hand.
the moment those two tag teamed, and Tony was done. Tony got a few good licks in, but Tony was not going to take on two
It
super
got
soldiers at the
he
same
he
time.
got down Bucky, but then it was Cap in him, but Cap's stamina just didn't give out.
No, but even if you factored all that, Bedlam just wanted it. The theme was vengeance. That was the core theme.
Revenge. Because
Revenge.
Buddy's family died at Age of Ultron, and he wanted revenge on the Avengers, and he said, "What better way to do that than have them tear each other apart?"
Yep.
Pretty much.
And he was right. They did tear each other apart. Bill's plan actually worked. He technically won.
But the Black
bad
Panther
guy
was not going to let
won?
him die.
Question mark?
The Black
Moon
Panther would
Knight-
not let him die.
Even if we factored all that, I think Moon Knight would have pieced together what happened relatively quickly because he is very vengeance themed. Not as much as Ghostmaker, but he's definitely could piece together what's going on, especially with the wisdom of what's the deity Moon Knight? It's not Ramakrishna. I forget the deity.
It was
But
Anubis.
Khonshu?
I think so. I think
It
so.
was
I would
either-
have to
it was
Moon
something
Knight's
like
god is Khonshu.
Khonshu, that's it. Thank you. I feel
Yep.
like Moon Knight would have figured it out relatively early on, or at the very least by the beginning of the third act. Like,
Yep.
okay, what happened? This guy just wants revenge for the death of his family. Tony, first of all, what happened to your parents was just a political assassination. Your mother just happened to be in the car that night.
No, they did put anything to Hydra.
They wanted the
Hydra is the one who did it.
the super serum.
The Super Soldier Serum.
Ultimately, but
Yeah, because Hydra wanted Super Soldiers.
Hydra wanted it for themselves. But ultimately, like, I feel like Moon Knight would attempt to be the voice of reason, but Tony's too much of an egomaniac.
Yeah.
But the moment Steve confessed to knowing about Bucky, and we get the final battle. I mean, Moon Knight would jump in, but only to stop Tony and Steve from trying to kill each other. That's the only reason he'd step in.
Then when things heated up, then they would be like, "Okay, we're doing this."
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the second character I thought they could have introduced before the last three Avengers movie was
Captain Marvel.
Yes.
Definitely would have been more natural, or the very least he would.
No,
She would team up with Iron Man. Because in the Civil War comics, she teamed with Iron Man, which I know did X-Men stuff. But
She was
X-Men did Civil War time. I read this book. This book is stupid. With the time mean nothing.
Technically,
none of the X-Men joined their own teams.
I hate to cut you off, Tevia, but technically, Civil War was a Kingdom Come ripoff, but that's a separate conversation.
It was?
Yeah. Think about it. It's literally just Kingdom Come without the religious allegory.
Right.
Oh, yeah. It is kind of like that. Except, unlike Kingdom Come on was smarter, Civil War did a triangle event that made no even sense. But the only time Spider-Man and that Spider-Man time would get Spider-Man time.
It did set the stage for Planet Hulk and Worldbreaker Hulk, though.
So instead of one more day, it would destroy him with Spidey.
That was editorial mandate gone bad. Chevia, we do not need a Spider family rant right now. Let's just say, for those
I know. But I'm in Civil War. But Civil War connected one more day, sadly.
Let's just say, for right now, that it was an editorial mandate gone bad.
I will go me, Jay Heap, then Tavia. I think she would definitely team up with Iron Man, and I feel like that just because she is knowing her power, her strengths, they would simply roll over Captain in them, like without question. Her, Rhodey, Vision, and Tony, and Spider-Man. Oh, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
As a service woman, I almost called her Brie Larson. Captain Marvel can relate to what Steve is going through in terms of saving his friend, his ally, and just the whole politics of it all. Since she went through a similar situation with her mentor back in the 90s in her solo film. Since I'm using it retroactively, of course. So yeah, Carol
Danvers.
Carol Danvers. I almost called her Karen.
Cara Danvers.
Nice.
Cara from Supergirl.
That's what I'm saying. Like they kind of stole that because you got to think.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they did.
Pretty much.
They stole Danvers and then give her like Superman power. I was like, how ironic. How freak. Real original, Marvel. Real original.
Wouldn't be the first time the big two ripped each other off, and won't be the
Yep.
last. But
Yep. My
yeah,
Marvel
But
didn't go in charge for
back to my
years.
back to my main point. Back to my main point.
how would you
Even
play
if
it?
Carol would try to be the voice of reason, especially with Shield disbanded. Like, there's obviously a bigger
Yep.
ploy. There's obviously some kind of revenge scheme going on, trying to tear each other down. Pick Fighting each other isn't going to solve anything. We need to settle things accordingly. Now, Carol is a meathead. Is going to resort to fight, but this is a situation to where you can't just fight it out because you're ultimately going to play into the villain's hand. So I think Carol would try to be the voice of reason, but given the bad blood, especially with the reveal of the Stark's assassination, there's just too much bad blood at this point,
Yeah.
and with Brie Larson being Brie Larson, she's just going to turn this and she's just essentially going to, okay, that's enough. I'm surrounded by idiots, and then she's just going to, now you two are going to sit down and talk this out. We wouldn't get the divide at the end of Civil War. It would kind
Yep.
of leave the film anticlimactic because Carol Danvers just swoops in, be's the voice of reason, reluctantly gives in to peer pressure, pretty much fires a photon blast, and pretty much everyone backs off.
Yep. Gentlemen, what's in the video problem here?
Tony might try to get a cheap shot, but Carol can just fire a photon blast right back.
Yep.
And as quickly as his arc reactor charges.
But she
Pretty
took
much.
the entire fleet from Thanos and took Infinity Gem.
She took a punch from Thanos and stood there and looked at him, and I'm just like, yo.
Yep.
That was a gag. A funny gag, but a gag. Anyone else would have been knocked out.
And I'm like,
But
oh my
Scott
god,
Whitney killed Thanos.
Thanos got made to look like a bitch by a bitch. That's funny. That's kind of
Let's try to
funny.
keep this PG,
He
gentlemen.
still won
Oh,
Infinity War.
don't worry.
He
All
killed-
my
he could have
all my
Venomous.
see no all my videos are restricted to anybody 18 or older. So we're good on that. But I really think that she would definitely now that is a character that'll change the whole movie.
She technically was in the only Civil War comic she was in that book. She
She
came with
was
Iron
Miss
Man in
Marvel
that
at the
book.
time. You would have to pay for a separate IP if you were going to debut Miss/Captain Marvel in the book. So technically, you would be paying for two IPs because this movie came out before Kamala Khan debuted in the comics
Ms. Marvel.
changed the Miss Marvel IP. So, do we use Miss Marvel Carol Danvers version from the 90s, or do we use Carol Danvers Captain Marvel, which is 2010s, which is 2010 on?
Wait. What time? What in the Ms. Marvel title made in the 70s? It was the
Yes.
70s first, not the 90s.
Yes, the original Marvel. He was permanently killed off.
Well, it was the Marvel, yeah, but I'm talking about Carol Danvers Ms. Marvel.
Carol Danvers Miss Marvel was from like the late 80s to like the early to mid 90s. By the 2000s, Marvel had been killed off, and I think by 2010,
it was 2010 she became Captain Marvel after Civil War, after the old Civil War.
Yeah, it was after Civil War, so it was definitely by 2010 before Carol rebranded as Captain Marvel. I think like two other people took up the name before her. I think Monica.
Yeah, they weren't that popular. Okay, that's not true. Peter Davis Captain Marvel run was good. Peter Captain Marvel was amazing.
But to get back on to get back on topic.
To get back on track.
One, the IP would cost you would have a disconnect because you're pretty much paying for two separate IPs just to even use and debut the character in this movie. And two, it would completely lead to a major disconnect in the film unless you keep Brie Larson, keep Captain Marvel strictly in the voice of reason type role. You would have to literally have her incapacitated in the second act during the airplane fight.
Yeah,
that's the only.
That won't happen.
That's the only way you can make her work.
Yeah, that's the only way you can make her work. It makes sense. I mean, how else is Captain Marvel gonna? And then there's no other way to write around. Like every other way would be like it will make the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the future just so complex when you try to put her in a film if you don't write it that way.
Again, you would have to have her be essentially, especially by the time you get to Phase 3. You would have to make her the adult in the room. And the way Brie Larson brought that character to life, that just wouldn't work. She's just too much of a meathead. She's too caught up in her own way.
Now, I want to confuse both of y'all. On to our third, and it's not a person, it's a group.
I know where this is going.
Oh no, I have my headset on. What'd you say?
Huh?
Technical difficulties, everybody. But let's go ahead and move on to the next character,
Yep.
bro. Whenever you're ready.
Well, it's a
Okay,
team.
I'm ready. My girl was asking who I was on the phone with.
Oh,
So our third person.
X-Men and Dark Phoenix.
I see where your head's at. But
Yep.
again, we still have the Fox acquisition
We
didn't go
still have
through.
the rights issues. Yeah.
So technically, this essentially would be a No Way Home situation where you would have to team up, collab with Fox to co-produce the film. That's the only way you could get this to work. And
But
even
I
Well,
kind
then,
of,
remember,
but I
this is
kind of see
before
like,
the acquisition.
yeah, and you have
X-Men
to
was
say this is
still
like,
with the 2020 Fox, and we still haven't had a force of 2020 Fox. This is before Disney bought Fox. Okay.
again, you can't use the new timeline characters
I
because
didn't
we
hear
already had
you.
Quicksilver in Age of Ultron. So you can't use the
Yeah,
new timeline.
and Day of the Future Past already happened already. That movie already looked on the pattern of existence.
But
Pre-
the only way I see it is like when this series was going on in Civil, and the MCU was doing Civil War, and we were, you got your First Class, Apocalypse, and
Day
all
of the
that.
Future Past.
So it's just like, what better way to introduce them into MCU? And I can see Tony reaching out to them.
I could see it.
No, the X-Men would not join Iron Man. They not join Iron Man during Civil.
Well,
The
if
Civil War
if it
time.
no, if Tony and this young Professor Xavier got the talking, I can see, and he when the situation was getting heated, I can see him talking to Mister Xavier. Xavier, finding Steve with what's that device called?
Shuribo.
Yeah, I mean, I can actually, like, I'm pretty sure that he can get into Steve's mind and like understand the situation more, and when Tony asks for their help, he'll be like, "I'll gather my team."
Yeah, but the X-Men were not work for Iron Man. In the Civil War comic, they didn't work for Iron Man.
No, that's why this is a what
Okay,
if.
Yeah,
again,
whatever, I know.
forget we.
But there was Cap. Wolverine's
Uh,
have his Cap. Did he? In Civil War, I don't remember. No, wait.
again,
That's not true. In the Civil War tie-in, Wolverine comic, he fought against Nitro.
yeah, Nitro pre. Okay, you essentially have, and this is a quick history lesson for the original story. You had the not the Marauders. What were they called?
The
The
New
New
Warriors.
Warriors. New
New
Warriors.
Warriors. New
Not,
Warriors.
no. Not before. Not the not the one the Beta Male made. Pretty much half-assed in a weekend, and everyone pretty much cringed at it.
Oh, yeah, internet gas.
This is the original 1990s New Warriors roster. It
Yep.
kind of faded out after the book ended, and they were trying to get a reality show going. So they confront this DC list villain Nitro, confronting him at his house, probably planning some scheme, being preemptive. But you're over escalating the situation. Two, he hasn't directly committed a crime yet, and three, he has a very destructive superpower.
Yep.
So even
The
if you
blow
catch,
stuff up.
so even if you catch this guy off guard, the moment he gets enough charge to set his powers off, or he's actually ready to fight you, you risk massive collateral damage, and that's a best case scenario. Needless
Yep.
to say, these former sidekicks were in over their head, and the entire town gets nuked, like wiped off the map. I think it was Chicago,
Yep.
if I remember.
So you're
Yeah.
basically saying
Women,
that getting
children,
them.
families, it was a massacre.
So you're
And
so
everybody knew words for that. It wasn't their fault. It was because not Joe caused that explosion. Not the New Warriors. Okay, they may have gone way over the head. But again, super villains caused that explosion. Didn't and the monster villain actually really wasn't any of the hero's fault. Oh wait. I bet on Civil War everybody a complete idiot. Shocker.
Basically, it was the reaction of superheroes or superpowered beings, escalation of the
Yeah, which
situation,
and which
increasing.
whether we don't
so,
should
you,
go
so,
to
so,
next.
so I want to say, so you're basically saying that if they would have teamed up with Tony, the situation would have been more catastrophic than what it would have turned out.
Relatively, because the X-Men have
Relatively, yeah.
always been mutants first. They don't really interact with the government like that. They're willing to reach out an olive branch. They're willing to have a conversation on mutant kind's behalf, but they're not going to directly team up unless it's an existential threat to the
And
planet.
knowing Tony, Tony would agree to do whatever he could to help
Take
mutants.
take on Steve. Now, would Tony swallow his pride and cut a deal with Xavier to take down Steve in Steve's side?
No
Yeah,
chance in hell.
it would depend. It would really depend. Like, okay, this is a good chance, to show some good grace with the government. Help us stop Steven and arrest Bucky, and I'll call in a favor with Thunder Ross and maybe get some policies for mutant kind in place.
Except the
Magneto
X-Men would
would
never
call
do
out
an Iron
Xavier
Man.
for
They
throwing.
hit the government.
But here's what I would think, and I would think that they would have agreed to sign up with Tony, but then Magneto would have, I guess, somewhat started eavesdropping, and then I guess knowing what Shield and all that was, and then see how they built weapons, and they're just off branch black op military that no one fucking knows about, and then I feel like he would kind of like, I guess, find a little bit of distrust towards Tony, and he would end
Yep.
up turning on Cap's side, and then
Magneto would ultimately. I hate to cut you off, man, but Magneto would ultimately call out Tony on his bullshit and then team up with Cap.
Yeah.
and then I guess,
Magneto would do his own thing. Magneto said,
but
"Screw you, Iron Man. I'm gonna do my own thing, and I'm gonna have to go back. He'd act the heart out, and he gotta go rogue and do his own shit."
Given his experience with World War II and how he grew up, Magneto has a very heavy disdain, if not hatred, towards regular humans.
Yeah,
So
But-
he would even if this is for the good of mutant kind, even the political way, the reaching the government, those in charge, Magneto would just see this as Xavier selling out, and Tony
Yep.
just feeding him a false promise
no,
because
would
he
you
knows he can't take on two super soldiers, a Scarlet Witch, two super soldiers, a Scarlet Witch, Falcon, a guy with wings, and Ant-Man. Now, even with Tony and the other half of the Avengers, the fight would stalemate best case scenario.
because you got to think he will have ability to, I guess, control his Iron Man suit because it's still made
Yep.
of iron.
Also, had to experience Scarlet at the age Magneto's kid.
In the comics, they never directly confirmed.
Well, was until Marvel said,
But
we
here's
got
the thing.
luck on that. I mean,
Here's the
Scarlet
thing.
not a kid, Magneto kid anymore.
My last
Thanks, Marvel, you jerks.
my last debate on this topic, that I could see this situation being a prime example of when Jean lost control of her power. I feel like she would get all in the heat of the moment of the final battle and just snap. And then the situation would be kind of dirty at that point. Kind of like how you said, it's heat of moment, lost control of their power, half a city or half a military or airport gets blown to smithereens.
And pretty much any goodwill the X-Men had with Tony goes right out the window.
It'll go out the window. That deal will be broken. So that deal's off.
And then I can see the agency going after Tony for civil destruction. And they would kind of really want all the Avengers under arrest at that point.
Pretty much.
And the X-Men routine was Cap's side.
All right, so
there would be a few, like maybe Falcon or Adam. It just depends. A lot of them would go on the run or off grid, but I feel like some would ultimately turn themselves in and let due process play out. Like Beast.
I do not see Wolverine doing that or Saga doing that.
Oh, Wolverine would just go on the run. Wolverine would just do his own thing. He knows how to take care of himself. But I feel like a lot of the more good or more heroic leaning X-Men would ultimately turn themselves in.
I don't see Laura doing that.
The best way to say this is that the airport scene would go catastrophically bad, especially if Jean Grey loses control in the fight.
Because she would literally destroy everybody.
Technically, the airport was abandoned, so there wouldn't be too many casualties, just a lot of property damage.
The Avengers will be boned. Like, their bones will be scattered all over that airport.
She doesn't have the Phoenix power yet. But since technically...
Well, even then, like, I feel like she still doesn't know how to control her power.
If Jean had a psychological break pre-Phoenix or before she's imbued by the Phoenix, she just knocks everyone out.
Yeah.
Cap side wakes up first. They sneak off in the confusion. And then Black Panther might start to wake up, but he's ultimately stopped by Yelena, Black Widow. God, I can't remember her name.
You're talking about Natalia Romanoff.
Natasha.
Natasha.
But is it Natasha? Natalia.
It is Natasha.
It's Natasha. Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow.
You. But thank you.
I can definitely like see that really not ending well. But to our third character, now this one, I feel like would have put this man back on the map and gave his character a redemption. Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider when I see him ain't he's a magic character.
No. To hear me out. No one Ghost Rider being a solo vigilante anti-hero, and at this point,
yeah,
we're talking Nicolas Cage from Ghost Rider 1, but at the state of the Angel of Justice, Blue Flame.
But that's not Johnny.
That's what I'm saying. Like they meet at the airport, they get ready to fight, and as they're running towards each other, he swoops in because he's able to sense, I guess, hate. He's able to conflict, hate, vengeance, more of like guilty, innocent. So I'm pretty sure that he would like sense the kind of innocence and the guilt in one spot.
But even if this is Nick, I get what you're saying. I hate to cut you off, but I get what you're saying. Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider would not be the voice of reason. He'd be more inclined compared to his comics counterpart, but he would not be the voice of reason. He'd just be a chaotic neutral.
Yeah. If you want an example like that, read Dan Ketch. That Dan Ketch is part of the Blue Flame. That's his Ghost Rider. I think people keep forgetting about that part.
But he would just say
this with Nick Cage Ghost Rider. Come on, two different characters, slam to one.
He would help.
The movie can be bad.
Fair point, Tevia. Fair point. But he would say like, you guys are just being idiots. You're letting survivor's guilt cloud your judgment. You guys are just being idiots.
Yeah.
Now Winter Soldier's guilty of a lot of things, but
he would go after some people though.
He would go after some people as they are guilty, but he would have an inquiry on Bucky because he was brainwashed to doing a lot of what he did.
Yeah, he was brainwashed by Hydra.
He had no agency in those situations. Maybe a couple of times, but a lot of his kill count, he did not have his mental faculties when he did that.
Yeah, he was brainwashed by Hydra.
So yeah, Ghostmaker would feel a bit of an inquiry towards Bucky and Steve, but you guys are going about this completely the wrong way. I'm going after the real villain of all this. And if you really want to focus on saving lives and being heroes, then either follow me or go right back to beating the crap out of each other. I don't care.
Yep.
And then
Ghost Rider would probably just be a dick.
Yeah.
Go ahead with this leave, but you guys are idiots. I'm out.
So instead of Black Panther stopping Zemo, it would be Ghost Rider, and Ghost Rider is just going to kill Zemo himself.
Go ahead with this kill Zemo in 2 seconds. Like,
no, he will say, "Look into my eyes."
Yep. The
pendant stick.
So yeah,
or I can see Ghost Rider wrapping him with the chain and then lighting it on fire.
Pretty much. Yep. Ghost Rider would just go after Zemo, so we wouldn't even get the whole Civil War fallout, or at least Zemo himself getting the last laugh. So yeah, Zemo would just be dead. Let's call it for what it is. Zemo would just be dead.
Oh, like once
Zemo would be dead in 2 seconds.
Once you saw Ghost Rider's entry, you'd be like, "Oh, it's a wrap. It's a wrap."
Pretty much.
Oh, now you hear,
"I'll go after the real person. Kill each other if you want."
And then the chain wrestling.
Yep.
It's a wrap. He's dead. He's dead. I'll give him like 48 hours. He's dead.
We saw Ghost Rider MCU with Angel Shield. We saw Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider.
We saw Robbie Reyes. But here's the thing.
And Johnny Blaze.
So it wasn't Nicolas Cage, Johnny Blaze.
No, it wasn't Nick Cage, Johnny Blaze.
It was a recast.
We're talking about the only, I guess, canon
the only live
Rider that we got is Nicolas Cage.
True,
because technically the Netflix shows, they were adjacent.
They were fillers.
They were fillers.
Not adjacent. Ghost Rider appeared in Agent Shield.
Yeah, that was Robbie Reyes.
But it was
not true. But they did show Johnny Blaze.
They killed off Johnny
Okay,
Blaze.
hang on. You know what? I'll probably screen share this because I can show you guys.
It was essentially the Agent Coulson show. He gets resurrected, and then it spins off from there.
Yeah, it's basically a spinoff. It wasn't really canon.
But I will say this: Ghost Rider wouldn't. Really go ahead, screen share it. But Ghost Rider would just go after Zemo and be done with it. He wouldn't really care what the Avengers do at that point. He might confront the event. He might confront the event. He might go after the Avengers just to be a dick, but ultimately he would just go after Zemo and call it a day.
Yep, Johnny Blaze.
That's what I'm saying. Johnny Blaze is the known canon. You don't hear nothing about Robbie Reyes after that, but we got we got 2 movies and a clip of Johnny Blaze. So why not would have made him canon in Civil War? Like, they had so many opportunities to.
It was an executive decision. They didn't want they didn't want to make.
You remember Marvel Entertainment, Marvel Studio Achievement Entity, and go like promo bullshit.
Yeah.
Which Perlmutter is an effing asshole. That guy screwed a lot of shit up. Remember, this is the same jerk who wanted to put in humans and try to put the X-Men.
To be fair,
that turned out badly. It failed miserably. All Inhumans dead. They're all gone.
The Inhumans are very hard to adapt and execute. They really are.
Yeah.
Because they're essentially moon people with superpowered abilities. They are very similar to the
X-Men.
They are very similar to the X-Men. They are very similar. But they're distinctive enough to be their own thing.
Which again, that was a fail because all the Inhumans we have now, dead. Miss Marvel is dead now in the comics. Cause I got everything, Marvel. You killed Miss Marvel over your bullshit ASM crap with no legs anymore. Bravo, Marvel. Bravo. Wait a second. Remember I don't own not TV channels. Remember I was playing a movie. Why kill off in the comics? That makes no sense. That's just stupid and bad marketing.
Right.
Get it.
But okay, here is a group that I think that they should have introduced, and it ain't the original. We're talking about these guys.
No, I'm not doing this. No.
Not Ben Vortex. No. We're not eyeing them.
Jared, if you don't bring your butt right back here. Come on, Jared. Come on, bro.
I think he's gone.
Look, we got to. They were the only other candidates.
But Ben Vortex.
Look, I got 3 more. I got 3 more.
Just recast Chris Evans, and we could just use the same cast from 2005.
We're not going to put Aaron back at Lee Richards.
But we brought back Reed Richards, though, at least.
Let me just finish. And this is all I'm going to say about Fan Forster, and this includes my channel too. This was literally crapped out so Fox could keep the rights. And
that's true.
Shows.
Yeah, David May wanted to keep the rights, which failed.
And
miserably.
Michael B. Jordan only agreed to do it just to get his name out there.
I don't blame him on that one. In fact, I don't blame the cat. They got fucked over. Let's be real. This movie was only made because of 3 reasons. Keep the lights, to make a benevolent movie even though they know what the fuck they're doing, and to someone had to keep the movie alive because they were afraid of didn't make it.
It's more just to cast young people because the original cast got old.
That is true. Much. Also, they got to have Ultimate Fantastic Four, which, spoiler, failed. Because
Ultimate Fantastic Four wasn't bad. It's just that version.
It was good. I do like that story.
It was,
I love that comic.
But their main thing, it was a black Human Torch. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I was gonna.
Yeah. It's not even the bad thing. No, the third act.
That was the one thing that blew up on Twitter, bro. You can't even lie.
The third act made no sense.
They were like, Michael B. Jordan, why? Where the freak is Chris? You could have had the same thing in the 2 young, Miss Invisible and Mr. Fantastic, but they could have recasted Chris Evans instead of Michael B. Jordan.
I agree.
And it probably would have turned out twice as better. Twice as better.
Make Reed Richards the bad guy. Make him the maker. Problem solved.
You would need a lot of setup.
If we do it the maker, people will get confused. It's an
One-
evil religion. From the opening of it, who's evil? Just do him for himself.
You still need to do some setup because the Maker is a storyline in of itself.
Oh yeah, that's true. But open Doomsday.
You still need setup for that. I get
Yeah.
where your head's at, Tevia, but you still need setup.
So
True.
even if they
But
was
Fox-
to have
Fox
joined,
don't do
who's-
setup. Fox would rush into the Maker and do whatever they want.
And this is my one critique of Silver Surfer. They did not have the proper CGI to do Galactus. They did not have the proper
Yeah,
CGI
they didn't do Galactus. They had a big crowd.
to do Galactus until Marvel Ultimate Alliance came out and they made a Galactus for the cutscene.
yeah.
Yep.
So if they was to have joined the Civil War, whose side do you think they would? Probably Iron Man.
They joined Iron Man. Well, we
You
used
got
to
to
join
think
Iron
government,
Man's side.
government. You know.
Yeah, the Thing didn't
They're
join anyone's
kids.
side. He really
They're
don't own
already
shit.
they're already I hate to cut you off, Tevia. They're already working for the government at this point because even if you could stomach the ending, they do get government contracts at the end of the film, so they would be on Tony's side regardless.
Yeah.
They'd pretty much be ordered to assist Tony to take down Steve and Bucky.
So who do you?
Yeah,
How,
well,
how do you
Ultimate
think it
Editor
would?
would do it.
so-
But Lego been at it before. He had been a Civil War been at the comics.
Let's
So-
recap.
Civil War
So-
time.
Wait. So how do you think it would have played out then?
Let's recap. Let's recap everything we've done so far since we're making this one big video anyway. Let's recap. On Tony's side, you have the original roster with the additions of the fan. Excuse me. Fan
The
Force
lame,
Stick,
the lame-tastic four.
the Lame-tastic Four. Thank you. With the addition of the Lame-tastic Four. I want to say Captain Marvel, but she's technically the voice. But the only way that would work is if you made her the voice of reason.
And Ghost Rider.
Ghost
And
Rider
Ghost
would be
Rider.
neutral and would just go after Zemo.
Yeah.
And the X-Men. X-Men would be on Tony's side. On Steve's side, you pretty much have the original team, only with the addition of Moon Knight so far. Because
Yeah.
everyone else is either under government contract or would be government leaning for the sake of their own agendas.
Yeah.
Oh, the Cap side would be Magneto because he eventually turns on the X-Men, pretty much calling Tony on his bullshit, and the fact that Xavier pretty much sold out on a false promise. So
Yeah. But knowing the X-Men would have to go against Iron Man when they find the truth.
So you got the X-Men.
it would be after the airport fight. They just
So-
wouldn't. They just wouldn't go to Russia for the final battle. It would be after the airport
So
fight.
are you talking about we got the X-Men versus the lame-tastic four?
No, the Lame-tastic Four and the X-Men would still be on Tony's side. I do not see the X-Men shifting over to Steve's side before.
Unless you got Magneto on Steve's side.
Magneto would definitely turn on Tony by the airport fight.
Magneto would turn everybody. He would do their own shit. Like, you got an idiot. I'm gonna do my own thing. And
Maybe
I
Wolverine.
can, no. I can see Magneto, I guess, turning on Tony, getting his hand on some advanced Stark tech, and making himself more powerful and doing his own
Yep.
thing.
Pretty much. And maybe
Pretty much.
Wolverine on Cap's side because, again, Wolverine's over 200 years old. He's seen a lot of bullshit over the years, and he knows when someone's giving him a load of crap. Even if
Wolverine
Tony's
would never join Iron Man's side. He would join Cap's side in 2 seconds.
Pretty
Including War. War would team out there with Cap as well. But
War
then
Machine
Civil
would
War
stay
2
loyal
happened
to-
and mess
we gotta
everything
follow
up. Oh, wait.
MCU. We gotta follow MCU, Tevia. War Machine is still loyal to Tony.
He is.
Well, War Machine, yeah. I'm going to War. Okay, all new Wolverine.
And Wanda and Vision are loyal to
Wait,
Tony.
are we including X-23 into this?
No.
Yep, that's what I'm including.
Wait.
Let's keep Hugh Jackman's Wolverine because X-23.
Yeah, we're keeping Hugh Jackman. He's the only, I guess, canon MCU Wolverine.
Well, not just him. I've been Roy for Logan.
To set up, let's just compromise and still have Logan be a separate film after this. That way, you still have Laura, you still have X-23 that's standalone. Let's just compromise.
Fair enough.
on that.
I can go with that.
And okay, so I feel like as of the airport scene, Tony would have the advantage until Jean has a mental breakdown, loses control of her powers, and then pretty much knocks everyone else who's psychologically vulnerable unconscious.
Yeah.
Wolverine would probably be the only one of the only few immune because adamantium.
Yep.
And he would adamantium, and maybe Magneto if he still has his cowl on. So they would pretty much not be affected at all, but they choose to get out of Dodge because this isn't their fight anymore. So Wolverine and Magneto would just go their separate ways and make a run for it. Moon Knight would be knocked out. Everyone would be knocked out except Cap's side, who ultimately wakes up first. T'Challa would be the first on Tony's side to wake up, but Black Widow would have woken up around the same time and betrays him. Because, like Ghost Rider said, y'all are being idiots.
Yep.
Y'all are, so there's a larger threat going on, someone who's pulling the strings, and neither party really wants to sell out to the government. This is just PR at this point.
All right. So here's another name, and we're gonna go into the.
I don't see Kamala Khan joining Iron Man or
She'll
joining Captain
definitely
America.
join Cap. She would join.
She would
Cap.
definitely join Cap. She would join Cap because
She
you already
would
got
Cap,
Peter.
yeah, but in Civil War 2.
You already got Peter on Tony's side, while you have Kamala Khan on Steve's side. It's a good parallel. Nice touch, bro.
Yeah.
So it's a good parallel, but
Because you already got Captain Marvel there, and Captain Marvel knows Kamala Khan.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is the first time they meet. This is the
Miss
first time.
Marvel was Captain Marvel. When she joined Tony's side, technically speaking, which killed damage.
Wasn't it in the movie of Captain? What was it? It was Miss Marvel. I think it was the movie.
She got a cameo in the movie. She got a cameo, and then it led to her own show.
Wait,
But,
what cameo? I don't remember a cameo in that movie. What I remember in general, it was the other Captain Marvel, Binary.
But to make it a long story short, it's a good pay. Although Kamala is essentially a Captain Marvel fangirl, she wouldn't really get that. She wouldn't really be inspired by her until after Endgame and pretty much everyone recovering from the snap. She's heard about
having this movie won't make any sense.
If you just go straight off the TV show, yes, having her would not make sense.
Yeah.
But if you keep her standalone, like, oh, I'm trying to be a superhero, oh, I'm inspired by all these people, I'm gonna do my part, and she just happens to come up with Miss Marvel, then yeah, it's completely coincidental. Then she gets mentored by Brie Larson's Carol when this is over. She's inspired by her, and then you set up a dynamic mentor sidekick role in the sequel before Endgame comes out.
But again, I don't see her join either side because one, she's a kid. Two, she's waiting overhead. Three, like Civil War 2 tried to do with her kid and mess everything up bad with her book.
Wasn't Peter still a kid by that logic? If we're going purely off
the
MCU?
Yeah, good point. Shit. Okay, fine. Bad example. Yeah. Fuck.
I will agree if you're being practical. It's a good thematic touch to have Kamala on Steve's side and Peter on Tony's side. It's a good thematic choice. However, if you're being practical about it, it can't work unless Miss Marvel is her own entity and just happens to come up with the name Miss Marvel on her own and doesn't know Captain Marvel even exists.
True.
What about this character?
Thor was on Asgard.
Thor would not go into Iron Man's side. Hell no. Like the Civil War comic, he was not involved in Civil War. That was a clone of Thor.
Technically, Thor was canonically dead at the time. He gets resurrected afterward.
Wait, how did he die?
I think it was like the year, like in 2002, 2001. He was presumed dead, but it was he was essentially in a space coma. But
those came with the shoe, man.
Pretty much. But even if Thor did come back for this, he would be on Cap's side. I'm just gonna call it.
Cap's side immediately.
He liked Cap more than Tony anyway, and like, yes, I understand where you're coming from. Collateral damage. You're plagued by survivor's guilt, but selling out to the government isn't the answer because those in charge don't have the best intentions.
Yep.
Thor knows from personal experience what happens when he lets his arrogance get the better of him, especially when he's being too stubborn for his own good.
Right. I really feel like he would have definitely changed the aspect of the fight. I mean, you got to think, like, at this point, Thor has the power of a god. Like, he can wipe out the whole field instantly.
He's the god of thunder.
The only one who would on Tony's side who would be a real counter to Thor is maybe Captain Marvel. Again, Captain Marvel would only work if you try to keep her the voice of reason.
Thor and her would go ham together.
Wait. Speaking of killer we never done talk about, what the Guardians of the Galaxy? Who would they be with?
The Guardians of the Galaxy were still standalone because it's still
be standalone, yeah. Yeah, but I can see. Well, I could, Thor being Avenger, I can be like, he'll probably sense something's wrong, teleport down there, And then if he can't reason with everybody, then he'll probably join Tony's side.
He would be on Steve's side.
Yep.
Hmm?
We're
For
still
the
talking
Captain
about-
America side, instantly.
We're
And
still
the
talking about
only
Captain
Civil War guy
America.
was a clone for, but in this scenario, the real four would team with Captain America immediately, not team with Iron Man. Especially if we don't bring in the clone stuff. But get the clone force that ever happened, we're not bringing that shit. Because that thing was bad. Which
But
clone force killed Goliath.
again,
That came
we
out to
have to
light.
work with the characters with what we have. Even if we do add these extra IPs, that's only because we would have had legal leeway at the time. So we couldn't use Goliath because that's adding too much extra cost to the movie.
True.
Unless we made Civil War strictly a two-parter. Then we
Which
could
that's
add
not
all
going to
these,
happen.
then we could add these extra characters.
All right, now this is going to take us back to one of the topics we were talking about, and that is Hugh Jackman. Like
Like
we're
I
not
said.
no, we're not talking about X-Men. We're going to take Dark Phoenix and the X-Men out, and we're just going to say Hugh, just him.
Just Wolverine.
If it's
Wolverine.
just Wolverine by himself, so is this is like, okay, this is just Wolverine by himself, and he's not.
Let's just say we already got a Deadpool 2, and they made Hugh Jackman, the young Hugh Jackman, which, like I said in our episode, bro, that we are getting young Hugh Jackman for Deadpool 3.
Okay.
So, you
yeah.
know, it's already like, because, you know, this is leading up to the multiverse saga when Civil War was coming out. We were getting.
Oh, this
Avengers
would be.
Game.
I see what you're doing. So on the X-Men side, we have post Days of Future Past, our new timeline Wolverine, whereas we have Logan from the
So before Logan movie comes out.
Before
from the
Logan,
original.
from the original, yes.
Basically, Deadpool 3 past Logan before Days of Future Past comes back, and then by himself in Civil War.
Yes.
Okay,
Wolverine was dealing with Captain America. He would not
He
never took Iron Man.
He would
That's what
definitely go. He would definitely go on Cap's side.
on Cap's side, because
He would not
Again.
listen to Tony. Knowing Logan's like attitude and how he thinks, he'll probably like Iron Man will probably say something smart, and then he'll be like, "You better watch who you're talking to, bub." And
Yep.
then I feel like knowing Logan, he has a smart mouth too. And then Cap's gonna be like, "Ah, shh." And then I can see Tony be like, "All right, let's see what you got. Throw on the suit," and Wolverine gonna be like, "I'll cut through that like cheese." And
Yep.
Tony would not even know what his claws are. I mean, that iron will be off instantly.
Iron Man would be destroyed in 2 seconds.
I think Tony would lose a limb if he tried to pick a fight with Logan, even if we counted post Days of Future Past or new timeline Logan as part, Wolverine and part of the X-Men. If Tony picks a fight with either Wolverine, he's just going to get his ass kicked.
Yeah,
who-
Wolverine would
who
kick
on-
his ass.
But who on Tony's side do you think would be besides Vision?
Wolverine would never choose Iron Man side.
No,
He would
I
be
ain't
on
gonna lie.
Captain America's side.
I feel like Wanda might be able to go toe with Logan.
Yeah,
No. Scarlet
No,
Witch with a
she
Captain
can
America
literally
side.
pick Logan up. Like,
Yeah, levitate, but she has to maintain concentration to do that. All
Yeah.
Wolverine has to do is snarl or scream at her to disrupt her confrontation, and she'd easily drop him.
Yeah.
or Logan, or remember how she did Thanos, where she picked him up and her magic started ripping off the armor. What if she starts ripping him limb from limb?
You still have the adamantium exoskeleton, so that would make Logan really, really heavy.
But I'd almost stronger.
So I think Logan would ultimately overpower her levitations, or at least the amount of power she's using for her levitation.
Okay, even if Spider-Man wouldn't go toe to toe with him.
No. Now, granted, Logan would hold back because this is just a kid that Tony pretty much led into the line of fire. And I think Tony
would not fight Wolverine. That's not going to happen.
Spidey wouldn't even target Wolverine like that because he knows because the Spidey sense would tell him that's a fight he can't win.
Yeah.
And I think my brother Tevia just froze. But
let's we're going to our open topic. Now, this is a mystery character that I think it had potential, but at the same time, I guess, they just waited a little late. But what if Doctor Strange was in the Civil War? He would definitely join Tony's side.
Yeah, because of the greater good, and pretty much like we need to stay united. We shouldn't really be. There's a larger threat
And let's
looming. We
say,
shouldn't be
and
fighting.
and we
I
got
actually
enough.
Doctor Strange, but in either side. But in Civil War comic, he would not on either side. By the way, my battery died.
Doctor Strange would be neutral. He would
I
try to
feel,
be the
He would be
voice of
neutral.
reason.
I feel like he would definitely join Tony's side to go against Wanda.
Ultimately, he would be a good counter to Wanda. Ultimately, but
It will make
for
the
me,
fight. It will make the fight mutual.
Yeah.
it would even the playing field because although Steve's size is smaller by the time, especially since the culmination of the movie is the airport scene, Magneto and Wolverine together are two heavy hitters by themselves.
Plus,
But
you have Hulk.
Hulk is still on
Yeah,
Hulk
Hulk
is
is
still off world.
off
Oh
world.
yeah, Hulk left the space. Use the car.
Yeah, Hulk is off world, so you can't really, and Universal, so we can't really use him.
Super Universal rights.
Marvel just didn't want to pay
Marvel
him.
drop out the rights finally from Hulk and Namor.
It's not even that. Marvel just didn't want to pay him because you would have to give Universal a cut or at the very least co-produce the film.
Those
Marvel-
rights issue was so stupid. Like God Almighty, like, pissed me off.
Marvel didn't want to pay him.
Thank God Marvel got back the lights. Finally. Not,
And the
now
only
we
reason
got
they did
Hulk
that
on
is
the
because,
Hulk movie, finally.
and the only reason they got him back is because Universal didn't make a Hulk project or couldn't get one off the ground.
That's
They
fact.
they're never gonna make a Hulk movie anyway because Incredible Hulk bombed.
Okay, so I'm going to ask both of y'all a question. How would you want Civil War to have happened and ended?
I'm glad the Civil War ending we got in the movie. That's my ending. That ending perfection. That is the perfect ending to the Civil War. The Civil War comics ending, garbage. That ending was crap from the very beginning. We're not fighting with people anymore. Like Belgian. Like we're just fighting, and then Captain surrendered because
Yeah, and this led to
Hulk
Cap's
losing.
assassination. This was right in the middle of the Ed Brubaker run, by the way. So Steve was assassinated. Bucky took on the helm and shield for a while, and that kind of led into Bucky's redemption arc. So the original comics ending can work. It was just very convoluted at the time because there was no setup for it.
And
It was just
stupid.
dragged. You had a crap ton of tie-ins,
Yep.
and the story just dragged out way too long.
The Punisher tie-in made no sense because Punisher should not be involved in Civil War. He is more shoot for that question than never.
Punisher would have played a better role being neutral. I think only because of the character's popularity he was dragged into the event itself. Otherwise, he would have been completely neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Also, when Punisher joined Captain America's side, when because Captain America finally and Punisher said, "Not against you," and then Captain America knocked him out.
with everything we factored in with all these extra characters and licensing, by the time the airport scene, we pretty much knocked all the extra parties out because the mind blast with only a handful waking up right away or being immune. So I feel like after the airport scene, everything would just balance back out.
So out of all the, I guess, characters that we have listed, you didn't see no good possibilities of them actually being introduced early during.
No, I don't see that happening.
The best,
no way to get all the K into one movie. It'll be way too much.
The best one would have been Captain Marvel
to make this work.
I'll interject. I'll play devil's advocate. Moon Knight can work. It's just he's a very small character to the point to where you could have, if Marvel wanted to pay the IP license the IP, they would pay little to nothing to add him in. You would just need you would just have to give him a solo movie to set it up and delay Civil War 6 months. They just didn't want to do it. X-Men, you would just have to either co-produce or give Fox a cut and then use the Foxverse cast. So those two would be relatively easy to do. Doctor Strange came out roughly around the same time, so you would have to get Benedict Cumberbatch to come back. So a lot of these wouldn't be too hard to do. It just would have been extra money.
But that's going to be impossible to do. But you can remember, Fox was trying to reboot Fantastic Four, which failed miserably.
I say bringing Fantastic back would have brought the movie down, unless you just kept the only
don't do bullshit. Forget that. Reboot the thing again. Let Marvel take control of Fantastic Four. Fox messed up too many times. We're not going up to talk Fantastic Four ever again.
Fantastic was relatively standalone, even if it was crapped out to keep the rights. But Fox still would have got their money for both. Fox I can't say that they would have gotten top dollar for both IPs. They just would have co-produced the film in exchange for using those characters. So the Fox,
Yep.
so even if we are using the fan stick actors, they still would have been technically rebooted to where you could essentially watch the film as part of the MCU, but it's separate enough to where it's not directly canon to the MCU. There are these superpowered prodigies who go into space. They end up getting cosmic powers due to radiation exposure, and then they end up on a government contract.
Yep.
That's pretty much what the film ends up in, other than an atrocious CGI battle with Doctor Doom towards the end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the movie went to hell and it was garbage and no one gave them the movie ever again.
Again, you could since it's what they would have been relatively recent, you can cram them in, and if they're not successful, you just say, "Hey, they're part of the government. They're still part of their government contract. They're working with the government, and don't give them a sequel."
Or actually we boop another point because the movie ever happened. That's my solution. Because the movie bombed anyway. So
Me personally, I
go
would
ahead.
just use the old cast and just recast Chris Evans, or get a model and just use CGI to put Chris Evans' face on top of it.
No. We're not doing that. No, I say just recast. Recast more simpler.
Well, we are getting the original Fantastic Four.
Yeah, we're
coming
gonna make it
soon.
when we finally. But thanks for letting us straight. We don't know when that movie coming out. Yeah or not.
They can't really do anything until after the Fox contract expires. Even with the acquisition,
They said it's leading up to Secret War.
these actors are
It's
still
supposed
in
to be the Train Dynasty.
Can I finish?
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. These actors are still in contract until 2025. So if they do anything with X-Men or Fantastic Four, they would have to use those actors.
Wait. Stop. Let me get this straight. So
Fantastic
even with
Four,
the
you
what,
can
even we still under like, do we still have the Fox contracts? Why? Why not just get rid of the contracts? Let's erase them. I don't know.
Fox
Let
is
them
too
pieces.
proud to do that.
Fox is too proud.
They're
Not to
not going
mention
to give up the rights for that.
that, and you would have to buy them out.
And if no one
Don't deny the money to buy them out. I mean, they're billions of dollars.
they're
But
still
they've
not going to
already
make
been
it
merged
cheap
into
because they're
Disney.
money hungry. They're money hungry, bro.
Not
Ow.
to
Them
mention
and
they-
Disney.
that, well, both their stocks are in the tank right now for relatively self-inflicted reasons.
Ow.
But
Damn it.
ultimately, the Fox cast you would have to use if you plan to do any X-Men project whatsoever. Fantastic Four, you might get away with recasting, but you're probably better off using the original 2000s actors.
Yeah.
Well, you can recast one of them, Jessica Alba. You can recast that cast member, just make a new Sue Storm.
Jessica Alba's Sue Storm wasn't bad.
She was fine, but she didn't get the credit. I don't know.
I like the new actor of Susan.
Yeah, I'll give
Why?
you that.
But honestly, let's be real. No one get all that movie.
But anybody got any closing remarks or any more?
I feel like this
one-
is a good discussion, but I feel like even with everything we put here, everything we talked about, by the time we get to Russia and the final battle, because it's so focused on Steve and Tony, everything
And Bucky.
all the extra manpower would pretty much be written off by being knocked out by Jean's mental breakdown, except Ghost Rider, Wolverine, and Magneto. Magneto would go off to do his own thing. Wolverine would just pretty much bail at that point because he's not really studying it anymore. He would make sure the X-Men are safe, but after that, he would just bail again. And in Ghost Rider, he would just go after Zemo. He wouldn't even be. He would just be completely annoyed by this because
Ghost Rider just killed Zemo in 2 seconds.
he's just gonna go after Zemo and be done with it.
He would go from the airport to Russia.
Like Black Panther was doing.
Outside of fan service, the only reason Ghost Rider would be there is pretty much to call Tony and Steve out for being idiots.
Yeah, that's
Tony
what
for
it is.
being an egotistical idiot and Steve for being a sentimental idiot.
Yep, and he would just leave.
And he would look at everybody and be like, innocent, and then just write off.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Yep.
But I just thought
Captain Marvel would just team with Iron Man side, and that's what it is.
But again, the only way you can make Captain Marvel work is if she's strictly the voice of reason. That's the only way you can make it work.
Well, like again in her own movie.
But I thought this
We
was
can't see the invasion.
I just really thought this was a interesting I was just like, what if other characters was in Civil War? I just want to see what kind of points we could hit about how different, Civil War would have turned
And
out.
yeah, this was a great conversation. Hold on, I want to go ahead and screen share this right now before we go. Just give me a minute to pull it up. It's the new dynamic duo episode. Well, dynamic trio, I should say. If it still says duo in the thumbnail when it comes out, that's because I made it before Tevia joined us. But it will be rebranded to dynamic trio going forward.
Okay.
But let's see, down to DC, Monster, DC Zombies. Where did I put it? Ah, here it is. All right, now let me pull back StreamYard. Tevia, you're gonna love this conversation, but whenever you're ready, man.
Okay. Oh, yay! Manga with main comics.
I'll be interested in that one.
We're mostly going to be talking about shonen titles because there's not many seinen or adult titles we could talk about, except maybe Berserk, right here in the corner.
I don't watch Berserk, so honestly, that manga, I don't know a lot about that story. I know Death Note, I know Bleach, because of popular demand. I know Naruto, I know Yu Hakusho, and Death Note.
Thank you.
That's shonen.
No, Berserk is a seinen title, which means it's strictly adult manga for the shonen.
Same as it with One Punch Man.
No, seinen is adult. Shonen is like preteen to
adolescent. Action, yeah.
Preteen to adolescent. But yeah, the Berserker manga is technically a shonen title, whereas the majority of popular anime you see are shonen titles with a few offshoots like Attack on Titan.
What about Death Note? What manga is that? That's shonen or that
seinen?
Seinen.
I want to say Death Note is a shonen title, but you could easily make an argument for being seinen because it's right at the border in terms of how graphic that manga is.
Yeah, and the anime also as well.
Not to mention the market was different back when that manga came out. So by modern standards, it might be seinen, but it's
technically speaking, Death Note did appear in Jump Force. That game isn't bad, but that game was kind of the ultimate comedy of all manga characters swam into one big fighting game. I wish it worked. I wish it succeeded, but the game was so bad it didn't really work.
It was just a repeat of All Stars from 2008. That's really all.
I know what it would be All Stars if I didn't play that game.
Hey, I'm just saying All Stars was better. Not gonna lie.
I guess in that.
But with that being said, Kid, any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No. That'll definitely be everything. So y'all follow J Heat on Twitter.
Tevia.
And Tevia on Twitter. I will put it in the comments so y'all can follow them and stay in tune on when Dynamic Duo will drop. Pretty sure my bro will give.
I'll let y'all know. I'll let you know. I'll DM you.
But with that being said, I'm your boy Kid Takeoff.
J Heat Blaze.
And that's Tavia. Peace out.